Hello, this is Adam from Wax Pack Gods. I hope you're doing well. So what do you do when you've had a rough day at work or at school and you just need to unwind a little bit? Well, since you're a baseball card collector like I am, you probably reach for the cards, at least on occasion. So today, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wind down with some cards that I haven't looked at for a long time. So I was going through some things in one of our closets the other day, and I came across this little box. Clearly a box of baseball cards, and I had stowed it away at some point in the last 20 or 30 years, probably 20 years. I thought we'd have a look and see what's inside and wind down a little bit. I'm really not sure what's in here. I see a nice brick of cards, so it looks like they're all kind of the same make. Probably they're all tops. The brown borders. Got some bowing going on, so got some age on them, I bet. Let me pull out a few of them here. Ah, 1984 tops. So there are 1984 tops cards. So a nice black team lettering there. Picture in picture. Player name and position at the bottom. That's Gary Lucas. Pretty good picture for the Padres. And these cards on the back are purple and red and pink. It was kind of an unusual color scheme, and it really stood out when these hit the market in '84. They've got the team logo there on the back, which was not always the case. So it was nice to see that. The '84 set had a lot of special subsets too, including these '83 highlight cards. So this particular one is celebrating 3 no-hitters that were pitched in '83 by Dave Righetti, Bob Forsch, and Mike Warren. And Dan Quisenberry. The fireman of all firemen, as far as I was concerned growing up. Had that submarine delivery. It was great. Love to watch him play for the Royals. Steve Carlton. So a 1983 highlight there. Lefty, what did he do? Broke the strikeout record or something? He won 300 games, and he broke the strikeout record. Sometimes it's easy to forget that he passed Walter Johnson first. Steve Carlton kind of petered out long before Nolan Ryan did, and so Ryan ended up with the record in the end, but Carlton was the first to get there. We have Pedro Guerrero. It was a big power bat for the Dodgers in the 80s. Not many guys hit home runs for the Dodgers back then. The Dodger Stadium was, and still is, quite expansive, hard to hit the ball out of, but they kind of played a more of a small ball game. Let's see what Pedro did in '83. So he did manage 32 home runs, and he also stole 23 bases. So he was always up there during this time in the conversation of best players in the game. Looks like I hit a vein of Pedro Guerrero's there. Lloyd Moseby of the Toronto Blue Jays. Card has nice colors with the blue and the yellow. Mosby was one of the power bats for the Blue Jays to go along with the killer bees of Jesse Barfield and George Bell, or Jorge Bell. Had a few Mosbys there. Oh, and then there's the instigator, Billy Martin, in one of his 30 or 40 stints as Yankee manager. I exaggerate, but only slightly. Looks happy there. Who knows what's going on? Reggie Jackson must have been traded or something. Lots of Billy Martins. And Steve Rogers. He was one of the better starters through, especially the first half of the 1980s. Always a big star for the Expos. Kind of has gotten lost in the talk about Jack Morris, who is now going to the Hall of Fame, and even Dave Stieb for the Toronto Blue Jays, who stuck around a little bit longer than Steve Rogers. But here we can see, by this point, Rogers already had 11 seasons under his belt with 150 wins, regularly won 15 to 20 games, although at least at this point he never had won 20. I don't think he ever made it, but I'm not sure about that. And now we're back to the beginning of the stack. Let's do one more little grouping. I'm not quite calmed down from the day yet. Let's pick some more here. Looks like I packed these away very carefully at some point. Chris Cotteroli for the mid-80s A's. Let's take a look at what he had. Mostly minor league stats on the back of his card, so when Topps couldn't fill much room, sometimes they would spread out into a player's minor league stats. And so Cotteroli had, a decent run there. Dave Hostetler. He was a power bat for the Rangers in the early to mid 80s. You can see he had hit 22 home runs in the 1982 season. So he was one of these guys that I always wanted to ramp it up a little bit more. I would look at cards like this, and I would see the 22 home runs in one year, and I would hold out hope that the next year would be the one when he really hit it big. He never really did. Rob Wilfong, great baseball name. Leo Hernandez, third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles. Jerry Martin, Kansas City Royals. So I just happen to know someone by that name, so I'm going to set this card aside. John Shelby was one of those kind of filler type players who helped the Orioles of the early to mid 80s go. He had some speed, at least in the minor leagues. You can see he stole 34 bases for the Rochester Red Wings in 1982. So he was always one to keep an eye on. Had plenty of him too. And then Frank Pastore. So Frank Pastore was one of the symbols of the Reds' feudalism when I first started following them in 82, 83, 84. So they lost a lot of games during those years. And as you can see here, well, Frank dropped his fair share of them. He went 8-13 in 82, 9-12 in 83. So, but he was a Red, so I wanted him around. Rob Picciolo for the Milwaukee Brewers. Shortstop, second baseman. It was hard to get any innings at shortstop for the Brewers back then if your name wasn't Robin Yount. There's Mike Smithson, pitcher for the Texas Rangers. You can see Mike is holding on to the 70s look there. Got the bushy hair and the big mustache. Well into the 80s. Nothing wrong with that. Lenny Faedo. Part of that young core of Twins players who they auditioned seemingly every year until they really put it together and won the World Series in 1987. There's Mario Ramirez. Was a shortstop and third baseman for the San Diego Padres. He also had some good 70s hair and mustache going on there. Not sure what he's looking at over to his left, but he doesn't seem all that thrilled about it. And there's Dale, Don't Call Me Yogi's son, Berra. Definitely got 70s and 80s look going. Nice action shot there. Throwing the ball across the diamond. A little bit of a cheesy grin or smirk on his headshot. Solid card all the way around. And then we're back to Dan Quisenberry. Good place to end it. Well, was this the year that he broke the single season saves record with 39. It was big stuff back then. So anyway, maybe some other time we'll go through the rest of these cards. But for now, I hope you're feeling more relaxed about things. I am. The baseball cards always help with that. Be sure to check us out at waxpackgods.com and follow us on Twitter at waxpackgods. Jerry Martin and I say goodbye, and we'll see you next time.